All right, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. Today we're going to be talking about the power of having all the eyes. This is an Aubrey webcast, and I'm really excited to have with me is Missy Knight, the communication coordinator for Finneytown Local School District, as well as Mount Healthy. Do you mind talking a bit about yourself, Missy?
Sure.
That'd be great.
So I am the communication coordinator for Finneytown Local School District, as well as public relations for Mount Healthy City School District, and also have about 15, 16 years in education.
Brilliant. You can see our contact information right here. You can reach me at ZJVV77 or our emails right there. But please don't hesitate to reach out to either of us if you have questions during this webcast. We'd love to talk about what it is that we're here to share with you.
Absolutely.
So we want to kind of start off by defining some of the particular challenges that we see in the learning community here with communications. Like if we're being honest with ourselves, we have so many different ways to receive and send communications. Right?
We do have, and it's sometimes overwhelming. It's overwhelming as a school PR person to have to reach out through all those, but it's also, as a parent, it's so overwhelming to know where to find things and where to access that information.
So you do things like Facebook, Classroom, you got your email, all these different ways. And really what we want to spend this webcast talking about is a way or a method to try and kind of rope all this in using Aubrey, which is really our goal. Missy, go ahead and describe a little bit about the different channels that you have to use in your normal business of the day and what you have to do.
So our main channel is obviously our website, and it's where we communicate our mission and goals. But also through social media, through our Facebook page, through Twitter, through Instagram, and then kind of a couple other ones that are maybe lesser known, Peach Jar. But Aubrey is kind of one that's new to both districts.
Yep.
And we're really trying to help our parents and train parents, students, staff to be going there on a daily, multi-day purpose.
Because one of the things that you see a lot of times is you might have your website or you might have your social media, but basically these different channels reach to different audiences, correct?
They absolutely do. And you have to tailor that to reach those audiences.
So Facebook might be, that's where all the parents hang out.
It's where our parents are.
Yeah, it's where the parents are. So,
and even community members. That's where community members are as well.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So in defining this, then it's been really good to think about it in terms of, all right, so we've got these different channels, different ways of communicating, but where can we find a central spot where you actually genuinely have really almost all the eyes on any given state? And so that's
Aubrey.
And that's Aubrey.
That goes back to this idea of really directing our parents and staff and students to remember to, log in every morning and get it going. That's the first thing you see.
So that's really actually one of the cool things about Aubrey. So a quick orientation here. When a district embraces Aubrey, it becomes the homepage for them. And really when kids turn on their Chromebooks usually, but their laptops, their devices, staff, whomever, it's what greets them. So right off the bat, they're in the right spot to control the narrative, which we were talking about. That's just super critical, is just how to control a narrative. Right?
It is incredibly critical in controlling that narrative, and so that everyone's on the same page and everyone knows what the mission of what we're trying to do.
Beyond message, it's super critical. So I'm going to be piggybacking between the Aubrey product site where we have kind of dummy data, but then we're also going to be showing a little bit of some other school sites, Aubrey sites, to really give some solid examples here. When you go to Aubrey, you have all the stakeholders. So you can see right here, we've got staff, student, parents, and even community partners, things like YMCAs or the Children's Hospital or these different things that can actually surround kids in a learning environment as well. I'm going to go ahead and sign in with staff, but the beauty of Aubrey is we have single sign-on for Microsoft, Google, and Facebook, and it makes controlling usernames and accounts really, really easy. Once I'm here, you can see, once I'm in Aubrey, the central focus becomes communications. It's really where like the entry point is pivoted,
is.
is oriented, because again, as we were saying, the
Yes.
narrative, right?
Right.
So right here you can see I'm greeted with a bunch of different announcements. These announcements are completely tailored to me, the individual. We know who you are. We know you're a student in a particular elementary school, or you're a parent of said student, so we can actually start to customize these announcements. Over here are widgets. Over here are third-party shortcuts. And then over here are Aubrey apps. And this is just kind of a brief overview, but really the key point we want to emphasize is Aubrey is an education management platform. It does way more than communication. It covers a wide gambit of what happens in school. But that's important for communication because people are showing up to do school. So you are going to capture the views right away, because parents might come in and actually want to be seeing things like, how did my student do on AIR scores?
Right.
How did they do on MAP?
What form can they fill out?
What form can they fill out? EMA, etc. All the different elements that happens in school happens in this one central platform. So I'm gonna now pop on over to Finneytown. Finneytown's Aubrey install, and really, when you're doing communications with Finneytown or in Aubrey, there's really two core elements of communication. There are announcements and there are headlines.
Right.
And so we want to tackle headlines, and I'm going to pivot to Missy here, and we're going to kind of walk through how do you go about, sorry, not headlines.
We're going to do announcements.
Announcements,
yeah.
my bad.
Yeah.
Pivot to announcements and talk about how would you go about creating announcements.
So obviously we go into the announcement page.
Actually, we're going to back up here and first create a channel.
We are going to create a channel.
Yeah.
So we realized that we don't have a channel for our secondary staff or students. So we're going to create a channel for our secondary students. So it would be FSC students. And
We can go
choose a color. I don't care. Blue, yeah. And then we're going to choose that building, which would be the Finneytown Secondary Campus, and require that channel. So we want them to see that channel and whatever announcements come up on that channel every day, multiple times a day.
Correct. So they can't opt out of this channel.
Exactly.
It's always going to be right there. And think of channels as a grouping of announcements. So, I mean, you can think of it in terms like a magazine or a stream, but you can really tailor a channel down to staff and students and what building they're actually in, so they can have very tailored announcements. So I'm going to go ahead and save. I'm going to X out of here, and now I'm going to go back to my home screen. We're going to go ahead and actually create an announcement. So I could go in here and
FSC students. And then we're going to create an announcement about our homecoming. So we have homecoming coming up this weekend, and we've got the parade on Thursday. So we want to remind students about the parade and, what they need to be doing.
So I'm going to back this up here. So we'll just keep it open here from 12. So.
Right. So something was posted on the website yesterday, telling the community about it. So we're just going to pull some information off of there and when they need to be on there. That it starts at 6 p.m., but I would even add into there that they need to be lined up at the Northminster Church at 5 p.m.
So customized information that you might want to put in here. So you might be starting with like a generic one with the school website, but right here you're actually putting some customized information.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you can see right here you have a full, we call these WYSIWYG editors, but basically you can format it, add images, Google Drive files, videos, those kind of things all right here.
And one thing that Zach and I often talk about is making sure that we have an image, because that's what's going to highlight what they're seeing.
Draws their attention.
It does draw their attention.
And as a little side note, I mean, if everybody's looking for images, you probably have tons of images with kids, but there's also Unsplash as well if you're always looking for Creative Commons images to use. I'm on a computer that doesn't have images at the moment because I'm using a separate one, so I don't really have anything to pull from, but I'm just going to go ahead and hit post.
And I often use Canva as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I love using Canva
Yeah.
as one of my image places to be able to use.
So you can see right here, if you are a communication coordinator and in charge, really the point person for seeing everything that's happening for announcements, you can pull up all the announcements that different people are creating right here and go ahead and see them. So like this is the one that I just created right here. Again, no image, but I could put video and things like that in here. And we do track things like how many people are actually reading this, how many of them are liking this, how many of them are actually having comments, and we'll kind of circle back and show how that can be used for personalized learning later on. But it is a good way to see which things are getting traction.
And we do need to know that, and we like to be able to use that to track who's seeing what, and if they find it important or if they don't find it important.
So one of the questions we get asked is, well, who gets to do this? Who gets to create announcements? And within Aubrey, you can actually define who that is. So a lot of times, like I'm trying to think, in Finneytown, who has the ability to create announcements? I know you do.
I do. Superintendent
does.
I believe our coordinator for teaching and learning has that ability. I'm not sure about anyone else. I would have to go back and look at that to see. It might be our building principals may have some ability to do that. But mostly that falls on me just because I'm the one kind of in charge of that all around communication.
So the best practice a lot of times we see is like the person who owns it would be someone like Missy, the communication coordinator, but then you would have building principals basically running a lot of their core information out to their parents and their students via announcements as well.
And Miss Baker's on there, and so we tailor her to parents to put on there.
Yeah. So that's announcements. We're going to pivot now to the second really big component of communications in Aubrey, and that is headlines.
Yeah.
And these are a bit of a lifesaver for things like compliance or basically just getting people to really focus on something important within a district. So we're going to go over here and actually create our own example of a headline. So I'll click here and manage. Missy has a really good example right here. I mean, like many districts, what you guys do is you get good videos of kids.
Right. And so one of the big things that we're trying to focus on is doing more videos and incorporating more videos into staff, students' hands, and then eventually into the community's hands.
Right.
And so we're creating a video about, we've already created the video, but we're going to add a video about our house, one of our houses. And we have a 6-house system at the secondary campus in which all of our students are in that section, as well as mentor groups. So they see their mentor groups within their houses every day.
It's a way to help kids grow by mentoring each other and pairing up with other teachers. To really
and it's also about uniting the school in
Yeah.
itself. It really builds that bond and that unification within the students of different levels, because we have 6 through 12 in one building.
Yeah.
So we really want a unified community.
Again, getting back to that idea of a narrative, right?
Right.
And this helps with it. So when you create a headline, you have 3 different options. Deliver a message, which would be just to send out a message. One is you can put in a YouTube video, or you can deliver a form. So if I want to do that YouTube video, I'm going to go select that. And here it is right here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy. I actually only need to copy the identifier right there. Back to here. Paste this guy in. And then I can actually set when this headline goes out, I can specify who gets to see it, which buildings. So it's really, really nice. You can get customized because we know who you are. And then action required would mean that you have to genuinely acknowledge that you read the message, or you did the form, or you watched the video. Because if you don't, you can't do anything else in Aubrey. It kind of locks down the screen for you. So I'm going to select that.
And we like this for students, especially for students. If we really want them to watch a video, we want them to see something, we would add that for them, that they have to do it.
So it's a way that you're going to actually get all the eyeballs, quite literally. So you can see what this looks like if I hit refresh. Here's the headline. It pops up, takes over my screen. And again, it could be a video, it could be a form, all the things right here. So if I wanted to watch this really cool video, it's really awesome actually. I come in here, I can actually see how the video build the narrative like we were describing.
Absolutely.
And because this was one of these ones that was required, I do need to check off this box in order to hit finish. And then it goes away. Now the district has a record, and we know that things have been actually recorded, and we know that we've been able to send out that really cool piece of information to everyone.
I love that. And that's one of my favorite pieces with headlines.
It's very handy, and it can come up very well in compliance issues, which we'll actually pivot right now to start talking about. So that is a little bit of a rundown of how things actually work, the nuts and bolts of putting in announcements. Now we want to spend a little bit of time talking about some use case scenarios, like how districts are using announcements on a frequent basis. And I really want to start off with a little bit of like the core aspect that Missy was talking about, and that is Aubrey being sort of the center point of getting all your announcements, and then the idea of how it percolates out to the other different channels. So you can see right here, I mean, I'm actually not in, the core difference with Aubrey is we know who you are. So I could be seeing just parental announcements,
Right.
etc. I'm only seeing certain types of ones. Yeah. But talk to me, Missy, a little bit again about like how the workflow, what's the ideal workflow for you when it comes to putting together a communication plan, and then how you hit the different avenues of communication.
So one of the main things that I do when I create an announcement or I create an article that I want to put out is to put it in a Google Doc first. Mm-hmm. I write it all out in my Google Doc. That way I can make changes and I can adjust it as I need to, and let my superintendent see it and let other people, building principals, see it. And then I tailor it on an announcement page like on Aubrey. And I can also tailor it to go out to the website. Mm-hmm. So usually my Aubrey and my website article announcement are the same.
Yep.
And then I tailor it for Facebook, for Twitter, because you can't use that many words. You have to decrease the amount of words you use for Twitter.
Right.
Instagram needs to be a picture. So I need to maybe use a Canva to do more picture-based. You can see the one that's there.
Yep.
So it has to look a little bit different in each different platform that I use.
So thinking sequentially here, and this is what communication coordinators do, and people in charge of business marketing as well. So it's interesting. You think intentionally about where do I start, and then how does it filter out everywhere. And really, I mean, Aubrey being a good start point, and then figuring out how does it adapt. Well, actually, in this case, the Google Doc being the start point, and then the variations of it and how you go to these different elements can really help get a unified narrative.
It absolutely can, and it then if I need to do a form to let people reach out to us, like for parents, if we need to do a form to let people reach out to us, I can add that.
So actually, that's
in Aubrey, which is fantastic.
That's a good segue here. So let's pivot over here and show what that would be like. So, so if we wanted to go ahead and actually create a form. So think signing up.
So a sign up for a
eighth grade dance.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we actually have this forms app, so you can come in here, and if I wanted to go get parent volunteers to come for the eighth grade dance,
absolutely.
You come here, you can build out your form normally. If I were to preview it, you can see what this looks like. But one of the cool things is I could put it in as an announcement, or I could actually build it as a headline. So let me go here, and we can show what that would look like. And why, I mean, what's one of the things that we always struggle with in education is getting people to
respond.
Respond, right?
Yeah. That is one of the biggest issues that we struggle with in both school district is getting that parent response or getting even a student response. So
what I would do is I'd select deliver a form right here, and then I would attach the form. So I'm going to go actually.
And I love that it lists all your forms for you. Yeah. That it has it right there on the screen. I don't have to copy and paste it. It's there.
Maybe. So let me.
Was it the eighth grade dance?
There we go. And so I could select it to be parents to go out to them. I'm going to click staff right here just because I'm not logged in as a parent. You won't be able to see the example. But then you can also, again, make this action required where it actually shows up. So if I hit save right here and I come back and let me go back to my home, refresh, and you can see right here. All right, so now I'm a parent or a student or a staff member, and I have to come in. Now I have this form that I have to complete. And again, notice I can't do anything except complete this form. So, I'll put my phone number in here and yep, I'll do these 2 slots. And then submit the form and finish. And now you just captured a lot of data and a lot of feedback. So again, a very effective way of doing communications in a way where you can get things clean. I just saw, let me see, a question coming in. Missy, can you talk a little bit about some of the simple software that I think you were talking about Canva as a really kind of a neat, quick way for you to jazz up images or come up with really fun. Can you talk about that for a second?
Okay, yeah, I mean, Canva it's just an app or a platform that you can use. You can load your own pictures in. I always have my logos in both of the Canvas that I use. And it just goes in. You can add pictures, you can add the logos, you can add different fonts and things like that to again jazz it up and make it look fun. And that's what Instagram is all about. That's what they're looking for. And I will often put it on the website too, but it's really more for that different platform for communication.
It's a great tool to use as a basis for a lot of other tools. So like Twitter, or even for Aubrey, you can actually create like this stuff right here, like homecoming news. Like that can be created in Canva. Yeah. You can get it out here. These jazz. It's just a really good tool.
It draws your eyes.
Yes.
And that's what we want. We want it to draw their eyes. We want it to, so they'll click on it, they'll open it, and they'll read it, and they have the information.
So a couple other cool examples that are really practical in school of how to use announcements and headlines. One is we can really focus in on sometimes on, let me pull it up here so you can see all of these, but sometimes we have these things like compliance trainings that you have to do. So OSHA compliance, where you have to do all your slips, trips, and falls, don't walk under ladders, and those kind of things. And what we have right here is we have this Learn course where you could actually go in and push these compliance trainings out to your staff. So your annual trainings right here. When you have that, you still it can be sitting there, but you want to really build up a system where you're constantly reminding folk. So coming back in here and putting out headlines a week before everything's due. They can click on it and be like, oh yeah, I need to go do this. That. Right. You can actually put the link in there to the point where you can actually build a form saying I have done this or I have not done this, and it becomes a bit of that that way for administrators to be like, look, okay, come on, we've put this in front of you a number of times. You should.
Well, it's about responsibility and accountability.
Thank you. Yes.
So it makes the staff member, whoever it is, accountable for completing those tasks on time.
Yeah. There's a good chunk of compliance stuff that we have in any job, and headlines and communications can help you get the compliance that you need. Think filling out your benefits forms in January.
We struggle with that.
How do you get everyone to get it? Well, with Aubrey, because this is where people start. Again, I want to emphasize this: where they start and they end the day. You're going to capture action items. You're very much going to capture it. The fourth kind of way I would like to show, just kind of a cool way. This is coming from a customer district right here. This is Mason City Schools, and Mason really embraced Aubrey and announcements and headlines and the Learn app actually through the perspective of professional learning and professional growth, which I just think is just so cool. You can see right here, they are very active. You can see a lot of people read the announcements coming out, and they really use this as a cultural set, basically saying, hey, this is what it means to be a student at Mason, or everything from a bus driver to a cafeteria worker to a parent to a principal to a superintendent. It's all happening in one really central place, and they do something really cool where they gamify it. So you can actually take announcements and gamify them. So you can see these points that I've been earning over here. So if you read the announcement, if you come in here and actually read it, you can actually define it 1 point. If you comment on it, you can get 2 points. And then you can actually translate these points into, in Ohio, we would call them continuing education units, but basically a way to renew your license. So not only are you gamifying it, but you're keeping a record. So you can kind of see right here, you can actually keep a record of, if I were to come in here and click on my profile, I could see a record of all the articles I'm reading, the comments I'm happening, and as my points are growing, and then I could actually print this out and actually use it for licensure renewal. But this was just a really, really fun example of Mason doing an excellent job of using this as a central platform. And again, how do they do this? It's what people log in and do things their staff does it, and then they they have lots of parents active on this platform. So they're using it as a complete, as a central way of communicating with parents as well.
Absolutely.
So that's a pretty broad and quick rundown of how communication can be used within Abre. I want to take a second here just to review if there are any additional questions coming in. Give you 1 second here to look. So one of the questions we got was, it seems like there's still a fair amount of, copy and paste. Mm-hmm. So again, Missy, do you mind like kind of just addressing a little bit, like, again, you've talked about it, but the idea that you kind of can't get away from that because you always have to customize.
You do.
Your narrative.
You do have to. You have to customize your narrative. You have to customize who your audience is, and you want to make sure that that communication is effective for that particular audience.
Yes, cool. How do you know this is effective? Like, how do you know you actually have a lot of people hitting this or actually seeing the communication is another question we have. We track these statistics for districts so they know what's being viewed. Obviously, you can kind of look at the little eyeball.
I was just going to say, you can see the eye, so you can see who's clicked on it, who's read it, who's liked it or commenting
on it.
Yeah.
But even more than that, we also track like how many people are logging into the system. What are they doing? What are they clicking on for like these third-party shortcuts? And again, when a district embraces Abre, like it becomes the operating system of school for everyone. You are capturing everyone's attention, and I really do want to emphasize that. Everybody's starting in one spot, so you're able to communicate that very well. And let me see, one more question here is, when do you use a headline versus an announcement? A lot of times districts will do both. They'll actually have the announcement and then they'll port it over to announcement, or to a headline. It's good to think of headlines though in terms of like, this is something you really need to pay attention to. It's super important. And
announcements, I view announcements as more like, this is informational.
Right.
We're providing you the information. And again, those announcements are more than likely going to be in many different areas. Whereas the headline, I need your attention, and I might need you to even respond to me in another way to get that. So it's an action item. I may need an action item out of that.
Yeah, that's a good way of describing it. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Missy, so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
This was fun. We hope you found this informative. If anyone has any additional questions, please let us know. Reach out to Missy, reach out to myself. But we thank everyone for joining us, and we hope that you've found this to be informative and have you piqued your curiosity.
Thanks for having me on.